Hi, everyone. Welcome to this next session. We're just going to wait a few minutes to make sure that everyone joins and gets a chance to move over from the trivia. All right, looks like we have a good number of people here. I hope everyone got a chance to participate in the trivia and you're feeling extra smart this morning, this afternoon. I guess we're safely in this afternoon everywhere but the West Coast. For those of you who are joining our track for the first time, I'm Rebecca Bluen. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager for our embedded side of the business. And I'll be moderating this track with Jessica. Before we get started, I just want to offer, there's a Q&A box to the right of your screen. If at any time you have questions, go to that box, enter them in, and provided we have time at the end of the session, Jessica will answer questions. And if we don't have time, we will make sure that your questions get to Jessica and she does answer them. It is my pleasure to welcome Jessica Smith. She's Vice President of Data Quality at Atacama. Atacama is a fantastic embedded connectors partner, and I'm so excited to have Jessica with us today to discuss how AI readiness starts with trusted data.
Thanks for having me, Rebecca. Really excited to be here.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you'll be talking about in this session?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jessica Smith, and I am our VP of Product for our data quality portfolio here at Atacama. If you're not familiar with Atacama, we're the market-leading data trust platform. So we focus all on providing data trust in large enterprise estates, and that covers everything from data quality to observability to lineage to master data management. And I'll go ahead and click through to my bio here. So I've been in this space for close to 15 years now. I have a lot of experience in the data management space. And really excited to talk today about the importance of trusted data when it comes to AI readiness. Okay. And then for the agenda today, what we're going to be covering, just to give you a little bit of a highlight before we dive into the details, is number one, just wanted to talk about kind of the reality of AI projects today when it comes to implementing them across the enterprise. I want to talk a little bit about the kind of data landscape that most enterprises are working with, how we evolve to getting to trusted data, the role of AI in data management, and then last but not least, how we operationalize data quality for AI. So have a really exciting agenda today, and hopefully we can get through all the content in the next kind of 25 minutes or so.
Awesome. Jessica, you've talked to a lot of data leaders. I'm curious, what prompted you to focus this talk on AI readiness and trusted data in particular?
Yeah, really good question, Rebecca. So if I just hop to this slide, one of the things that we were thinking about is obviously, everyone is thinking about implementing AI right now. I'm sure everyone who's in the audience is thinking about how they're going to implement AI projects. There's never been more attention on AI than there has been over the last couple of years. Every single board is thinking about this. Every single CEO is thinking about this. How can we implement AI to make ourselves and our organizations more effective and faster in what we're doing? And there was this really interesting study that came out a couple of weeks ago, actually maybe a couple months ago at this point, that the MIT published, saying, pretty staggering statistic that 95% of generative AI pilots at companies are failing. And essentially the reality here is that it's not failing because people don't necessarily know how to implement AI or there's not enough innovation. The majority of the reason why these pilots are failing is that the correct processes are not necessarily in place. So the operationalization of how you actually get AI into production and scale that across your enterprise is a lot easier said than done. And underpinning that is the fact that enterprise data landscapes are incredibly fragmented. There's a lot of complexity when it comes to those enterprise landscapes. Data is not of the quality and fit for purpose for those AI initiatives, which is incredibly important if you want to actually get real value out of those enterprise initiatives. So even during those trial periods where you're trying to maybe implement a project or maybe you're trying to onboard an AI tool, the results are not nearly what is expected by the executive leadership team because at a fundamental basis, the data landscape is not where it needs to be able to fuel those AI initiatives. And so if we think about how this breaks down across the enterprise and put this picture together to kind of illustrate what most enterprises are dealing with when it comes to their enterprise architecture. Now, this diagram is highly oversimplified. If you're a practitioner in the data space, you know that there's about 1,000 more boxes that belong on this picture if you're thinking about a real implementation. But essentially the message here is, if we think about how the data management landscape has changed over the last 10 to 15 years, because AI initiatives are not new, the newness is implementing generative AI as opposed to kind of traditional machine learning. But a lot of things are similar between the two when we think about making those projects successful. And if we think about kind of the initial modernization to cloud, there was a lot of kind of fragmentation that was created in that initial kind of cloud 1.0 modernization. Everyone was trying to move on-prem data to cloud data centers. You then had everything move outside of kind of the company firewall and create this massive sprawl across on-premises and cloud locations. We started to see a huge increase in the number of systems where we were sourcing data from. So whether it was cloud applications to transactional data systems to unstructured data documents that we want to include, all of these systems are incredibly kind of fragmented across the data landscape. And if we think about kind of the cloud 2.0 journey, which is essentially how do we create more domain-specific data products, and how do we use those to enable those AI initiatives? Because that's really that fit-for-purpose data that you need to be ready for those AI initiatives. You have things that are really important to creating those data products. So things like being able to incorporate lineage across your entire enterprise ecosystem so that you understand where the data is coming from, putting into place the governance measures so that only the right people have access to the right data, and that data is being controlled when it's fed into either machine learning models or generative AI initiatives where you don't necessarily want sensitive or PII data making its way into those AI initiatives. To observability, so understanding, where data is potentially breaking and impacting downstream systems. So maybe your data product doesn't have the right data in it, and same thing from a data quality perspective. So ensuring that data is actually, has the contents that it is expected there, that is going to be fit for purpose for those AI initiatives. And this is really where we see the kind of problem arising that is contributing to that study that MIT published, where this is really the breakdown of what's happening when we think about being truly ready for AI across the enterprise.
Thanks, Jessica. So it obviously fragmented architectures makes trust difficult, but what else is happening in the market that is shaping what data leaders prioritize right now?
Yeah, really good questions. There's kind of so many different forces at play here, but I think the three that I'd love to highlight today is number one, AI readiness. So I already kind of talked about this a little bit already, but that AI adoption is really actually driving demand for more governed, explainable, high quality data ecosystems. It's never been more important to get that kind of data architecture and data landscape in shape with trusted data fueling those data products so that those data products can fuel those AI initiatives. So that's a big market force that we're seeing right now. Second is regulatory reporting. This is still very much a top business priority, especially if we're thinking about regulated environments. So if you're in the financial services space or insurance or healthcare, for example, and even outside of that, like telco, everyone to a certain extent has to abide by certain regulations or laws that are being set forth. So if we think about like the EU AI Act, or even just GDPR concerns, we need to make sure that we're able to conform to those regulations and then prove to the regulators that we're in compliance. And then the last trend that we're seeing right now is around consolidation. So most enterprises are seeking to really simplify their data governance and management stacks. It's not infrequent that I go and talk with one of our customers and they have 20 plus tools that all kind of overlap and do very similar things. And so as spend is increasingly kind of shifted towards those AI initiatives, we're starting to look at what are we spending across the rest of the tooling stack. So those are some of the major forces that we're seeing right now.
Right. Jessica, you mentioned data quality and it's sort of underpinning all of these things. How should we think about it in today's environment?
Such a good question. And I think if we look at the lens of AI readiness, data quality is often looked at as a technology initiative. We're starting to see data leaders and CEOs pay a lot more attention to data quality because they're realizing just how much of an impact it has on AI initiatives and business initiatives in general. But I think, at the end of the day, it really comes down to a financial impact. So Gartner has estimated that poor data quality contributes almost to a loss of $12.9 million annually. And that's for a single enterprise as an average figure, which is a staggering figure. And this kind of comes from a number of different places. But number one, it comes from having bad data that's fueling your AI models, and this reduces the accuracy of those models. It increases the amount of bias. It decreases the model reliability. So we're having inconsistent or outdated data. It erodes business trust. So if that data can't be trusted, then those AI outcomes aren't going to be adopted. And that goes back to that first study that we just talked about the MIT study showing that 95% of those pilots are failing. And then lack of regulatory readiness, again, having inaccurate or untraceable data is going to increase your regulatory risk and essentially land you in a spot where you might not be able to explain to a regulator why certain decisions are being made. Or if you're incorporating AI into like your critical business processes, let's say you work at a financial institution, in control of credit risk or credit lending, and you use an AI model to determine who's a good fit for a particular line of credit, and then you're introducing bias into that. There's been a number of news stories on that same thing. All of a sudden, you're going to be slapped with a fine from a regulator because you're not treating the market in like a fair and balanced way. So there's a lot of things that can contribute to this, but at the end of the day, it's really about the financial impact.
Right. And when you look at enterprises, how they're structuring their data strategies, what does trust look like in that enterprise structure?
Yeah, so the way that we see trust fitting into the enterprise landscape is really around kind of shifting from governed data into trusted data. And so we've seen a lot of enterprise start their data management journeys in the governance space. So this would involve, bringing on a catalog, for example, figuring out all the data that you have in your enterprise estate, documenting that, defining that, making sure there's policies around access. And what we found is that a lot of those projects are very long running and don't necessarily get you to a point where you actually have data that you can use that is fit for purpose for those AI initiatives. Like it's not enough to just understand what you have, but you need to ensure that what you have is right. And so when we think about trust, we really feel like it's grounded in data quality and master data management, and then being powered by kind of ancillary pieces there around lineage. So again, to understand where the data is coming from, observability, so you can see if things are breaking in various pipelines, catalog, which becomes like your single source of truth, and then reference data. So if you have any kind of non-changing data, for example, that needs to be referenced in data quality rules, or if you need to kind of manage kind of a more well-defined data, being able to incorporate that into the stack is really important. And so we see data trust as really kind of centralizing on this piece. And if I show, we like to show this kind of data maturity scale when we talk about data trust, because most enterprises that we work with sit over on the left-hand side, where, again, this is where the bulk of the focus has been put over the last, maybe 5 to 10 years of really organizing and just understanding and governing the data that you have. But that's not going to give you data that you can actually trust is usable for those AI initiatives. And so what you really need, again, is that quality piece, the observability, lineage, master data, the ability to do data prep and cleansing, being able to surface that data then through like a data marketplace, for example, and create those trusted data products at the end of the day that provide value that you can actually use and be able to fuel those AI initiatives.
Right. And speaking of AI, I mean, it's a part of every conversation around data. How do you see it shaping the way organizations manage data going forward?
Yeah, really great question. So essentially, when we think about the evolution of AI and data management, that we've seen a number of different techniques kind of take place over time. So to just run through this really quickly. So, a long time ago, a lot of automation and AI was really just fully manual, right? It was, like just managing things hands-on by the team. And then that quickly shifted into, if we look at like the 2010s, for example, that was really the rise of machine learning, and everyone was kind of building models, and they were introducing, unsupervised and supervised learning models to accomplish various tasks. But the problem with that was that you really had to employ a very large team of data scientists to really make that a reality. And that wasn't possible for, a broad swath of companies. And so it wasn't really like a scalable approach, right? But it was the best thing that we had at the time. And then what we've seen over the last couple of years as, large language models have existed for a long time, but really became ubiquitous once ChatGPT kind of democratized generative AI to the entire world back in 2022, when they put a chat interface in front of large language models. And all of a sudden, everyone was thinking, oh my gosh, this is an amazing technology that we can really leverage in an easy way. So that's when we started to see the rise of generative AI, and we started to think about embedded generative AI. So how can you embed generative AI either into products that you're building or applications, or even internally? So you want to do like a search and you chat with your internal data. And where we see this kind of evolving to is the next phase of that is really agentic generative AI. And so this is where you start to kind of move away from the general purpose large language models and really into kind of these agentic experiences, maybe powered by fine-tuned models, or having an AI agent that has very specific tools that it knows how to use to accomplish like very specific and discrete tasks. And this is really where the agent is working on behalf of the worker, for the worker. And as we see this evolving into kind of the next phase, so I think agentic is kind of right now, maybe the next like year or two. But then where we really see this going is a multi-agent system, where you have agents that are working together to accomplish tasks on behalf of the user. And I think that's going to be an incredibly disruptive period of time, because then you're going to start to see a world in which you have interfaces, like instead of going onto, the internet or Google and searching for things, like that might all be done through agents talking to each other. So you'll start to see interfaces that are more tailored towards like machine to machine interaction and protocol. So I think we're in a really interesting kind of point in time. And I think over the next couple of years, we'll really start to see quite a disruption in the way that we just work within our own jobs and manage projects and build applications and offer services to our customers.
Yeah, I think disruption is a great word, and an interesting point in time is exactly right. Just to take it, sort of bring it down a little bit,
Sure.
can you walk us through what trusted data looks like in practice across an enterprise architecture?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to actually tie this back to the last slide where we talk about that agentic system, because I think we're really starting to be at the pivotal moment of where this is becoming a reality. So I think, historically you can think about, platforms like Atacama and CData together, providing the infrastructure to be able to, connect to all of your enterprise data, bring that into kind of a centralized platform, eliminate the silos, provide like that catalog governance layer, do data quality on top of that, do the master data management on top of that. But what we're seeing starting to happen is in this agentic world, we're starting to see the protocols be developed for that agent to agent communication that I was just talking about. And so one of the most predominant protocols that we're seeing come out right now is the MCP protocol. And so, when we think about how this might look like in an enterprise architecture, you still kind of have that connected data, right? And that's where Atacama and CData together allow you to bring that data in from your ecosystem into a platform like Atacama. And then what that would do is feed into this data trust layer, which you can almost think of as like an MCP layer that has specific tools or kind of modules that focus on specific tasks that can then interact with MCP clients, whether that's in your Power BI or Tableau dashboards, or in your Snowflake and Databricks environments, or with other enterprise agents, right? Thinking about how this might interact with something like a Salesforce or a Slack. So it's a really exciting kind of time, and this is how we're thinking about how this might work across the enterprise. And then if we think to just how we take a step back and get started on this journey and how we can actually operationalize data quality to fuel those AI objectives, so really get us ready for those AI objectives, I think there are 3 things that I would recommend everyone take away from this session. So unify, embed, and automate. So from a unify perspective, you have to think about how you can still operate in a decentralized or federated model when it comes to these various initiatives, but there are certain things that need to be centralized, and it's really helpful when you can kind of bring things together in a unified platform like Atacama together with CData to be able to connect to all of your data sources, be able to pull it into a catalog, govern it, run data quality rules on top of everything, observe all your data pipelines, have lineage so you can see where data is flowing. It really helps to bring that into a centralized platform to kind of help eliminate those data silos and really get a good view of your broader enterprise landscape. The second thing is embed, right? You have to take data quality and data management initiatives out of the back office, really bring it into the front office. So it really has to be part of what people are doing in the lines of business. You need to embed those data quality checks, not just across various data sources, but across your data pipelines and your business processes, in your models. You almost want those data quality initiatives to turn into like this invisible motion, because you want to be able to fuel that innovation and create that trusted data for the people in the business that are going to be driving those AI initiatives. And then the last thing is automate. And again, like this is so important because you're probably going to be using AI to drive those AI initiatives at some point, but apply AI or generative AI or agents anywhere you can to kind of help automate a lot of manual tasks. You can use that from a data quality perspective for things like anomaly detection, rule creation, remediation of data quality issues. That's something that we do at Atacama is we help with that automation across that entire process. And then focus on automating as much manual work as possible so you can really free up your high value resources, your people, for those high impact AI initiatives.
Excellent. Jessica, thank you. This was great. I think we've got 2 minutes, so maybe time for one question. This question coming from Pim. It's about robustness of data. Do you perform any of the available robustness tasks to check data quality?
So robustness task, is there more information about what the definition of a robustness
Not
task?
sure. Not sure.
I think what I can say is, from an Atacama perspective, so I'll just approach this from, kind of how we approach data quality, right? So I think about data quality. You might also hear like the term data observability. I see them as 2 sides of the same coin, where essentially, we kind of see that as one umbrella over data quality, where you have, needing to monitor like structural integrity of all of your pipelines to make sure like data is actually moving as it should. So that's the observability piece. And then the data quality piece is validating that the data matches what like the business expects it to be. And so you're actually validating that the contents of the data matches certain criteria. And that can be done in Atacama, that can be done in a number of different ways. And we have a number of different techniques and different types of data quality dimensions that we look for. There's like 6 different data quality dimensions that we look for that help ensure that the data is exactly what you need and kind of fit for purpose, so that by the time those data products are kind of curated and published for use, that those data products are trusted so that you can actually leverage them for those AI initiatives. Now, data science team might pick up those data products and do some additional kind of manipulation to that data, but they know that the foundational data that they're picking up and using is going to be correct and usable and governed and all the things that you want that data to be.
That's great. Jessica, thank you so much. It was great hearing from you. Great getting to tap into your expertise. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for your partnership, and thanks for coming today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.